here's something I want to make very clear. This video is going to be about the pandemic going forward. It's going to be prospective, not retrospective. By that I mean, here's what we need to be doing until the end of the year and possibly after to make sure that COVID-19 is dead. And I'm going to be talking about the vaccine. This video is not about people who can't get the vaccine. I want to make that very clear. That said, the number of people who can't get the vaccine for medical reasons is really small. It's like less than 1 in 1,000. So, yeah, I mean, medical reasons to not get a vaccine are entirely down to allergic reaction or the body having a bad reaction to the vaccine, which, as we've seen with the Johnson & Johnson one, the odds of that are less than dying in a plane crash. As of 2021, April 15th, which is when you were supposed to have your taxes filed, we have vaccines, and in almost the entire country, you can get it on request. There are 2 vaccines now. They're the mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer and Moderna ones. The Johnson & Johnson one is on pause. So, and this impacts where I work, because we were going to give the J&J vaccine, and now we can't. So, here's my response and reaction to this. Here's what I'm going to do when I get customers asking about it. Just like before, I'm going to point them to the government website in Minnesota. I will say, if you want information on where you can get a vaccine, go to mn.gov/vaccine. That's what I'm going to do. There's another response I could do that would be equally as popular, unfortunately. That would be to blame Governor Walz for something that is beyond my control and for a decision he didn't even make. Because apparently everything wrong in your life is the fault of the governor. If there's a massive snowstorm, well, that's Governor Walz's fault, apparently, because he is deciding to take action on climate change, and he wants to raise the gas tax and make snow even worse, even though that's all nonsense. That's not how this works. And if the climate gets bad in other parts of the country, that has an impact on our economy as well. For those of you who are interested in knowing what to do to end this pandemic as quickly as possible, the answer is simple. Get the vaccine as quickly as you can. If you're over the age of 16. Which, by the way, if you want to get it and you're over 16, you don't need your parents' permission. You can just go to a drugstore or anywhere on the mn.gov/vaccine website and just get it. It's free. So do that. You will have to do that twice, but you definitely need to, and you don't need your parents' approval for that. And also, you still need to wear your masks. I work in a small format retail store that also has a pharmacy and gives vaccines away. And the issue we are already starting to face is there are a smaller percentage of people coming in and not wearing masks. I don't think they are from this area. They are probably coming south from rural Minnesota and north from, orange states, from Texas and Florida and places like that. They're called snowbirds. They happen. And the mask mandate was enacted in the summer of last year, and then the snowbirds left. They went to a state that is even less strict about masks, and then they're coming back thinking they don't have to do that here either. That's a problem. But if you're going to come to Minnesota, you need to respect Minnesota. Please put on your mask. Possibly the reason I did not get this virus is because we've had at least 90% of customers putting on a facial covering to get prescriptions and around, to shop and buy things. And to that 90% of people, thank you. To everyone else, I'm not at work, I'm on YouTube, and I don't like you. I really don't. But I'm not going to say that to your face at work, because I just care about the customer experience a lot, because, I go shopping, I'm a customer too. But my personal life and my work life are very different, as you can see right now. So that's the simple answer to how we end this pandemic. Now I'm going to get to the hard stuff. There are people out there who, throughout this entire thing, were told exactly what to do. It's really simple. Like, at this point, when I go out, putting on a face mask is part of the routine, just like putting on a seatbelt, going into a car. That's just what I do now. And I will continue to do that until like a month after I'm told to stop, if not longer. And I've gotten the Moderna vaccine, and if you want to hear my personal experience, the first one is like the annual flu shot. The soreness in your arm is slightly worse than that. And then the second shot, if you're young, will give you a lot of joint pain, and it's just gotten a really bad reputation for that. But this is only for young people. If you're elderly, you're not gonna notice, probably because you already have this type of joint pain, or your immune system isn't as strong, so it's not going to respond as strongly to this mRNA vaccine that is training your immune system. That might mean it's a bit less effective for elderly people, but it's infinitely better than not getting it. As an associate for this small format retailer with a pharmacy, I have already been telling people, the booster shots you've been getting are not going to be the last ones. Like, the COVID-19 virus, which I really hope they come up with an informal name, the COVID-19 virus is going to be with us long after the pandemic is over. We're gonna have to actively fight this, possibly forever. So, if you're interested in being alive and going back to the way things were, then get the shot, and get these shots that come after. Make sure you're fully vaccinated all the time. And now, here is my message to people who refuse to get the vaccine. You're saying you don't want to do this because someone on the internet told you things like the vaccine has microchips, or that it's unnatural, whatever your belief on it is, whatever lie was told to you, and it is a lie. I got the vaccine, I'm fine, and I was autistic before, and I am autistic after. I don't feel more autistic after the Moderna vaccine. So please stop insulting autistic people by tying them to Andrew Wakefield's lies. For those of you who don't want to get the vaccine, even though you are perfectly capable of doing that, I'm not going to like you anymore. And society doesn't owe you anything. There will be a massive propaganda campaign to try and get you to get the vaccine. And everyone who knows better, and even Donald Trump, has gotten it. But if you're choosing not to get it anyway, then you don't deserve to live in a society where you are expected to do things for the benefit of other people. You haven't done anything for us, so why should we do anything for you? And that attitude is definitely shared among the majority of Americans at this point. Let's face it, the people who don't believe in the pandemic believe in the pandemic. The people that don't want to get the vaccine and also want to go back to normal know this is an incompatible set of beliefs. So they are gaslighting. They want this pandemic to continue as long as possible because they want to blame the Democrats for the pandemic not being over. That is their game. Thing is, I keep current on current events, and I've read a lot into this, and I talk to people, I go out and I socialize just like before the pandemic. I'm an essential worker. I've worked through the whole thing. I've only gotten a few days off since the pandemic started. Well, not including I've only had a few days of PTO. I've been to restaurants, I've gone out and done things more than I should have. And that has to do entirely with peer pressure. But that said, I went with a mask as long as I could every time. Like if I went to a restaurant, I left my mask on longer than my mother did. And I don't see the mask as an inconvenience. I see this as a thing I have to do to prevent society from falling apart. But it's really difficult to keep up that kind of decorum when you have at least a third of your country doing whatever it can to sow as much chaos as possible so they can own the libs, blame the Democrats. We have seen this so many goddamn times. And real America is done with that shit. I've already conceded that we will never reach herd immunity because you have like a third of this country who refuse to get vaccinated because they're being lied to and that they're choosing to believe in those lies, and they know they are lies. Those lies are meant to sow as much chaos as possible. You know what? If we don't reach herd immunity, fine. But all of the consequences will be shifted to you. Like, you're screaming about freedom. Well, if you take the freedom to not protect yourself, then you don't deserve that protection. If you refuse to get vaccinated, you don't deserve access to the fruits of a post-pandemic society. I am fully on board with doing everything we can to shut you out. States like Florida and Texas want to ban private companies from requiring a vaccine passport for entries. Here's what they should do. They should require them anyway. Because, guess what? Your former friends are now your enemies. Okay, if you refuse to get the vaccine, you're sowing chaos in the eyes of giant corporations and many small and medium-sized businesses around me as well. No one wants this anymore. No real American wants to live in a world of chaos. That's still not mean enough for me, though. Like, I'm done being nice with anti-vaxxers now, and if we should even go further than that. Governor Walz could do some very drastic things. He can quarantine off parts of the state, and even local governments can shut down parts of the interstate. to southbound traffic where you'd have people from Central and Iron Range parts of the state and the West, you can't go to the Twin Cities anymore without a vaccine passport. You can't access highways without a vaccine passport. And you need to put something on your car that says you're vaccinated to go to the Twin Cities, to Duluth, to Stillwater, to Rochester, to get access to anything. You need to be vaccinated. And if you don't get access. Die. That's it. That's how this ends. If you don't get the COVID-19 vaccine, you are going to die, and no one will miss you. None of the people that survive will miss you because they got the vaccine. They did something very simple that took a really short amount of time. Because of the vaccine, I feel safer than any amount of guns would ever do. And if you choose to not do that, well, guess what? Guns are not going to protect you from a virus that is like microns big. This is the threat that violence will not be able to solve. And all I have to do is wait. And on the 4th of July, or whenever the federal or state government just says, mission accomplished, take your masks off, we're going to exclude anti-vaxxers from everything, this is over, but the virus is still here, so keep getting your booster shots. Once we're at that point, fine, I will celebrate. We've done it. We have freedom from COVID for us. And I'm okay with that. You could have it too. You could get the vaccine. But if you don't, not my problem. I do not feel sorry for you. In fact, I look forward to dancing on your grave. I look forward to doing some kind of grand gesture, just covering tombstones with very mean messages, scattering masks everywhere, and being all, you should have done this. You should have done this. You should have worn a mask. But you chose not to. You didn't want to do this. And now you're dead. And I am happy that you're dead. These are savage opinions I want to avoid at any cost, but after a certain point, which we have gone past, especially after the 1/6 Capitol riots. You deserve to suffer. If you can choose not to suffer and you're suffering, you deserve that suffering. You even deserve death. But not as much as the suffering. You deserve that even more. This is all on you. As my Congressman Dean Phillips said, this is because of you. And you can avoid all of this. You could be brave. You could be the guy in your community that says, you know what? You're all saying nonsense, but I'm going to get that vaccine anyway. You can do that. You might not be as protected as I am, where a lot greater percentage of people are getting it, but you'll have so much I told you soing. So that's how we get freedom from COVID. The nice part of this is over. And it's time that we get these conspiracy theorist knuckleheads out of America for good, one way or another. And I definitely want to do that in the most aggressive manner, just so we can get that freedom from COVID as quickly as we can. I want to be done with this pandemic more than any of the Republicans do. Because I like freedom more than the Republican Party. That's just how it is. That's the cold truth of the matter. If you want to keep this pandemic going, if you want to blame the Democrats, No one else is gonna buy that anymore. We've seen this thing. We've seen this tribalist, empty-headed philosophy so many times. Like, I've lived through 2010, and you want to do that again for the midterms? No. If the pandemic keeps going, well, I just gonna say, you know what? It's over for us. It's over for us. It's on them. It's on them. If they suffer, if they die, if businesses go under, very far away, I do not care. I definitely don't. I did all I could to keep this stable. But at some point, if you're still not doing your part, then suffer, die, be gone. And, I mean, it's not like that I'm wanting this to happen to anyone. But you guys seem to want it, so at some point, I'm just gonna sit back and watch places like Aitken burn. And, the economic consequences of that are really dire. Like, we would have to try and get people from the Twin Cities to go to the Iron Range and do things like that. That would be the good, awesome, great replacement. I get to go to Brainerd and not be around stupid people. They're dead. Because they chose it. And hey, you know what? Fine. I'm pro-choice. If you're gonna choose death that way, I'm all for it. That's the real Minnesota perspective on COVID-19, on the end of this pandemic. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.